Let's jump to the story from the Blaze. Biden is currently not slated to be on the Ohio ballot in November, and state lawmakers didn't bother to fix the issue. I mean, that's the story. The Democrats are claiming, don't worry, we'll figure it out. He'll get on the ballot. But the legislature of Ohio could not come to a decision as to how to solve the problem. You have to certify the nominees 90 days before Election Day to get on the ballot. But because of when they're doing the convention, it's 75 days. They don't have enough time to actually get him on the ballot. Now they said, okay, let's just deal with this at the legislative level to get the sitting president on the ballot. And then they could not agree. They couldn't figure out how to actually do it. And some states, because of partisanship, Republicans were saying, no, we don't want to do that. Democrats were like, then do this. And they said, no. So there's no Biden in Ohio.
And that's a big swing state too, right?
It's a big swing state. It's an important one. Now it is leaning Trump.
But
according to all the polls.
Why did the DNC, who sets their calendar for their convention, not think this one through? Like, they're blaming Ohio, but I don't understand why the DNC picked the dates that it did. Surely they went to all the states that were important and be like, when do we need to know? When do we need to submit that name? You tell me. Like, why are we blaming the state lawmakers in Ohio who had an established rule when the DNC schedules their convention? This doesn't make sense to me.
It was a choice. Something is weird. Something weird is going on. I don't know.
Doesn't it seem odd that the DNC would pick a date that's after an important swing state can put Biden on the ballot?
They don't care. That's don't what it seems care. Like I'm sorry. Like, is this indicative of a shadow campaign where Democrats are so confident they're going to win they don't need Ohio?
Oh,
or
man,
Biden,
that's so reckless. That's so reckless. Well, it's weird too because Gavin Newsom has been in the news the last week or couple of weeks, I've noticed, talking about some autobiography that he's apparently been working on for 4 years.
But he's
if he comes out with a book, though, do you think they're going to try to slide him in, or is that just too much of a stretch?
Maybe, but he's just like a leftist Romney. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He doesn't.
He can put a sentence together, though.
Yeah, but I suppose it's fair to say
he does look like Romney.
It's like a leftist Romney.
Pat Bateman and Romney had a baby.
Yeah,
Server boy Romney.
If they're going shadow campaign route, universal mail-in votes and ballot harvesting, they don't care if it's Biden or Newsom.
Right,
so
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And I suppose the issue is maybe they don't care if Biden's on the ballot because they're ballot harvesting and they'll just get 5 million write-ins or something.
Well, all in the same exact font.
It's with the same pen.
Yeah.
One old man.
Did you use papyrus?
One guy walks
Were
out
you
of
watching Avatar?
One guy walks out of a nursing home and he's got one massive right forearm and a pen in his hand. It's like, I have been signing for 3 months.
I don't think this is going to go anywhere. I think they're going to make an exception for Joe Biden, and in a few weeks, this won't be a story.
That's reasonable.
Yeah, that's where I think this is going.
That's reasonable.
Otherwise, they'll say, oh, the Ohio Republicans are obstructing democracy by taking the sitting president off of the ballot there.
After they try to take Trump off the ballot?
Okay, but maybe then the Republicans say the Democrats pulled strings to cheat in the rules to get Biden listed when they screwed it up.
Totally. Also, it would screw Democrats down ballot, which even if Joe Biden, I don't think he's really in play for Ohio, but down ballot is where it would matter. And no, they're going to give him a workaround now. I believe. We'll see.
I agree, but understand that means Republicans then say Democrats broke the rules, changed the rules, and then put their guy on even though it broke the law.
Yeah, absolutely.
This could open the door if Biden wins Ohio for massive lawsuits to say that they cheated and they altered the forms outside of the rules of the state, of the laws of the state.
Hopefully we'll give the RFK Jr. campaign more lawsuits and things to complain about too.
I
know they're trying to keep him off balance across the country.
No, why are you ragging on RFK? You know,
no,
we're
RFK Jr.
Hey.
No, I think it really is going to reflect badly on the DNC, right? The DNC sets the date of their convention. So they could say Ohio and their laws and whatever, but they picked the date that they did, which either means they don't care, they think they should have an exception to the rule, which shows incredible arrogance, or this is a consistent issue they've had. They've decided that they are changing how they're operating and everyone must conform to the will. Remember, they changed their primary schedule. Instead of going with first in the nation New Hampshire, they were like South Carolina.
And then Bernie won in 2016 and they just said no, Hillary won?
Yeah. I mean, I think that there are probably a pocket. I don't know how many, but there are probably some, you know, think of like the Blue Dog Democrats, people who are still part of the party but aren't sort of necessarily progressive, who are looking at the party change and alter their rules constantly, who are like, what are you guys doing? You didn't catch this? There were Democrats in New Hampshire who were like, hey, we got to have a write-in campaign to make sure, because Biden wasn't even on the New Hampshire primary ballot during the time, because they were like, we don't care about New Hampshire. South Carolina, which, by the way, he won handily, even though he lost to New Hampshire. I mean, there's a reason they're doing what they're doing, but I think it separates the voters from the DNC as an organization.
So maybe there's like some 26-year-old and a couple of 20-year-old interns that are told by the DNC, like, you guys are going to be in charge of making sure the paperwork's in line so we can file in these states. And they're just sitting in the room with their feet up, like spinning in their office chairs, not paying attention, being like, I don't really care about Biden, do you?
I just think it's bizarre that you would want to have your convention 75 days before the general election. I mean, that is like no time.
Right?
And if
That's
Joe
what's
Biden
weird.
is
2
kept
months.
off of the ballot, then if he loses, they'll say that the Republicans
They
stole the
swap
election.
somebody
Exactly.
out. It gives the
That'll
other
be-
side
this is
less
the
time to
playbook,
investigate,
and
too.
this is the rubric for down the line if something goes wrong. Oh, look, we weren't on the ballot in Ohio. That we probably weren't going to win
And it was
anyway.
Republicans in the state legislature who blocked us.
Even though our party set the convention 2 years in advance.
No, it's not
This
going to matter.
doesn't make any sense.
Everyone's going to blame everybody else no matter what happens come November.
Yeah. And it's going to be everybody else's fault.
It will be. I don't see a resolution. I don't. Look, man, you put a little puzzle in front of me and I'll work to figure it out and be like, oh, that makes sense. You give me a jigsaw puzzle, I'll start putting the edges together and figure out what the picture is. I don't know what the picture is for November. I guess the only thing we can conclude is no matter what happens, no one agrees. Like, Biden wins? No way. Trump wins? No way. And maybe that's the complete picture. It's a Jackson Pollock painting.
I can't think of an instance in history when things have been this corrupt in any civilization. I'm by no means an expert, where that level of corruption has been reversed peacefully.
Ah, yes.
And that's really a challenging thing for me to wrap my head
I
around.
think it's inevitable that the loser of the upcoming election will have like a certain percent of their base that no matter what happens will say the election was stolen if they lost. I think we would see another January 6th like event if Trump lost. I think there's going to be people who do the not my president stuff with Trump if he wins.
Yeah.
So either way.
They teased it in 2016 too, because Hillary basically denied the. Did she ever even concede the election in 2016?
She did concede.
Yeah.
But then she immediately started saying he's a Russian agent. It's illegitimate.
Right.
The Russians stole it from me.
Illegitimate was the word they used.
And
not
then
unelected.
I think she
Right.
said she won, didn't she? What did she say in that? She's like, you could do everything right,
She won the popular vote.
and it can be taken away from you or something like that.
I also believe there was a certain amount of Democrats who chose not to certify that election as well,
Yeah.
of Trump coming in. It wasn't an amount to do anything significant, but
Well, I just saw a video.
Symbolic.
yeah.
I just saw a video of Keith Olbermann in 2004 saying that election was stolen.
Yeah. I mean, if you lose,
haven't-
you're gonna call it stolen.
Haven't Democrats
is he
claimed
famous
every Republican win has been stolen?
I used to see him on ESPN.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you lose, they're going to call it stolen.
I just pulled this NPR headline that says Clinton won't rule out. This is from September 2017. Clinton won't rule out questioning 2016 election, but says no clear means to do so. So like she was always saying, well, maybe there was something, maybe we should look into
Right.
this, even though this is not something Republicans are allowed to do. I mean, that was a year afterwards, almost.
The hypocrisy.
I like to think back. I'm imagining 2016, and I wanted to say something like, remember the good old days, 2016, and then I'm just thinking about like, Obama killing people, and I was like, yeah, it's been pretty bad since like 2000. It's been getting worse.
Yes. Since
Yeah.
9/11, everything's gotten worse.
Right.
On the right and the left. I mean, if you
Yeah.
look at the right wing sponsored, I know the left wing sponsored it too, but the Patriot Act, a lot of these, the Warhawks, a lot of neocon stuff was problematic too. And that's like the whole thing the whole realization that I had was that it's not that I used to always think the Republicans were better than the Democrats because I was a capitalist who believed in American values. And the fact of the matter is they both increase spending. They both increase inflation, which disproportionately impacts the most vulnerable among us and makes the rich richer because the stock market explodes when inflation happens and they're the only ones with money in the market. And they both fuck the American people over and over again. And that's why I think the people are becoming populist because they're realizing that it's not about Republicans versus Democrats, but it's about the people versus the
Well, I think the people have always been populist, but I think the issue is they didn't have a vehicle for it.
Yes.
And so, I talked to Bannon about this with Occupy Wall Street. When Occupy Wall Street first started, it was a general grievance against big banks
Yep.
and government bailouts. And then the right insulted the people who went there. And so the left latched onto it. And what was a general, neutral, moderate, populist beginning, within a week or two turned into leftist college trust fund kids.
Yeah.
The first weekend I was there, there's this elderly couple in their 60s sitting on a couch with an American flag. And they're like, we're here because the government is screwing over the working class. Big old American flag. And then I'm like, why is it that Breitbart immediately starts insulting these people? Hannity immediately starts insulting these people. The libertarian-minded and conservative-minded individuals who are there immediately leave, and the leftists celebrate their victory. And then Occupy Wall Street turned into weird woke garbage. So I remember when Occupy first happens, Hannity is just going nuts, insulting everything Occupy is doing.
I fell for it. I remember I was in college. I was so upset about Occupy Wall Street because I was a Ayn Rand capitalist guy. You know, I was just an idiot kid.
Yeah, and I was talking when I mentioned to Ben, and I was like, dude, when Occupy Wall Street started that first week, you showed up with like the Breitbart populist right, it would have been a unified front.
Yeah.
Bannon, I was like, you could have walked down there and said, tax the rich, and they all would have cheered, and it would have united Tea Party and Occupy, because Occupy wasn't leftist. When it started, look, man, I got to tell you, leftists are better than the right at organizing and revolution and all this stuff. Occupy Wall Street was vague and nebulous. There was something called Operation Empire State Rebellion that was being organized on 4chan, and that was related in general to government bailouts, government overreach, the corruption in government in general. Occupy Wall Street was announced by leftists, fair, but what happens is the people who want to show up to protest big banks don't care about Democrat or Republican. This was during the Obama years.
Right after this major crash, which impacted everybody.
Right. And so it was general, the government is screwing us over, the banks are screwing us over, the bailouts are screwing us over. And it was a prime opportunity for people on the right to come in and join with moderate default left liberal individuals. A month before Occupy, leftists held an organizing meeting to make sure it operated under their control. That first week when people showed up, it was random people.
Right.
There was one guy who was like the most Democrat-looking guy you can imagine, arguing with anarchists. Like I mentioned, there was the elderly with the American flag saying we're just here for America, that kind of sentiment. But then you end up with, people like Breitbart and that crew immediately just disregarding everything they were doing. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.